Hey, Hillary, I got you
Hey.
something.
Oh, what's this?
Well, open it.
Okay. Okay, why would you get me this?
What do you mean?
You always get me candy when you want something.
Oh, well, I didn't think.
You didn't think I noticed? I noticed.
Okay. Well, look, it's your turn to pick the movie,
Okay.
but there's one that I really want to see, and it's the last night in theaters.
Okay. All right. Well, what is it?
Yeah. Well, it's called. There's lots of fighting and chase scenes, and everything blows up.
Okay, so the same movie we watched last time you picked.
No, that was.
Same movie, different title.
I mean,
Here's your candy back. Let's
let's
do this.
Well, that was fun. Obviously, we were being silly there, but we're going to talk about relationships. How do you get what you want in a relationship, and whether it should be transactional or not. So that was the setup for that. We'll circle back to that. We have a couple other things to cover first. Hillary, we had somebody comment.
Yeah. It's like we're a real YouTube channel now. We're a real podcast.
Yeah,
We got
hecklers.
Yeah. So that was exciting.
Yeah.
So about 4 weeks ago, someone commented and said, LOL, all caps, LOL, you are pretending to know what's true. Really? Describe your methodology for determining the truth and how you apply that methodology without hypocrisy to every situation. And I think that's a really great comment, actually.
It was. And I
And-
feel bad that it took us a while to
I know.
respond.
I apologized.
We're serious about the podcast, but we're serious about our actual jobs that we get paid for, too. And it's not
Yeah.
complaining, but it's a lot to stay on top of everything.
I did apologize to at Frosted 1030.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, episodes 3 and 4, they were a 2-part series entitled How Do I Know It's True? And so I just encourage people to go back and check those out. There's going to be a link in the description for both of those.
Right.
But that's why we did those first, because we did think we were going to be sharing a lot of our opinions about what we think is true and why we think that and where we base that. So instead of repeating that all the time, episodes 3 and 4, check them out.
Yeah. And not slamming Mr. Frosted, but just the way he worded the question in the episode that he put it on, I'm not sure he really watched any of our content.
Right.
So, that's kind of the point of the channel is watch the content if you want to know. How do I know what's true? Well, we don't claim to know everything and we're not perfect, but the reason that those episodes are there is because we do think there's some good principles that we've learned, and we've been through a fair amount of life.
That's right.
We've got kids and grandkids, and so that's kind of the point. So please comment, please share, please spread the David and Hillary show, and we will try to be on top of the responses and handle that in a professional manner. So now on to show and tell for this week.
All right.
I mean, spring is just springing, baby. I'm excited. I love it.
It's really beautiful.
This first picture was a fun one that I found in our garden. I've shown pictures of this clematis before, but this one was hiding behind the leaves. I call it the peekaboo clematis shot. And then this is the one on the other side of the same trellis. I believe this is a Nellie Moser, but whatever it is, it's pretty. And then this one, which looks a lot like the second one, is not. It's supposed to be a blue clematis. It looks more lavender to me, but anyway, I just love this grouping on a different trellis where the azalea is kind of coming in from the side, the honeysuckle's coming down from the top, and there's a red azalea that's trying to get a little screen time on there as well. And it's just,
They're all showing off.
I love it. I love it. Coral bells, pretty simple, but they're pretty when they're in full bloom. And the white clematis, you can see all the petals on the ground. It's a little past peak, but man, I've been wrestling with when and how to trim this one because it's getting a little leggy, but it's so pretty when it blooms. I almost don't care.
And you said clematis. It's an azalea.
Oh, azalea.
But it's right next to what's going to be blooming as a white clematis. It's just, it's going to show up a little bit later.
Yes. Thanks for correcting me.
I gotcha.
Yeah. This is our pink dogwood. and I wish it looked great from a distance. I'm gonna have to fertilize it or something. We didn't get a lot of blooms this year, but
Yep.
what's there is pretty. And this is the back door, which we've shown before, but the last time the coral and the pink weren't all blooming at the same time.
Did you Photoshop that?
I did not.
That's
I did
like
not.
that's amazing.
That's what it looked like.
That's why I have trouble getting in the house because I keep just stopping to stare at it.
I think that was right after the rain. It was overcast sky, and the water brings out all the colors.
Man, that's gorgeous.
This is spiderwort by the stream part of our waterfall. I think I posted a picture of this a few weeks ago, and I said they're going to come in a lot more, and there they are.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. So this is our purple rhododendron. We talked about how it was getting 8 feet tall or so and showing off, and it's kind of behind the hybrid rhododendron, which is to the right, which doesn't look like anything now, so that's why I'm not showing it, but it's kind of fun there with the honeysuckle.
And again, this is a picture of perseverance because I remember when this guy came to our house and he looked dead.
Yeah.
We had to trim a lot of stuff out of him and wait.
Yep.
He's gorgeous.
There's another shot, and then the next one is just a close-up. Just the blooms are so pretty. They're like balls of happiness. Well, it's peony season as well, and here's one of our the first one of our white peonies to bloom with raindrops all over it.
I have to be careful with this one. If I get my face right in there and smell this one, it's so fragrant. It will just set my allergies off like nothing else. And it's like, I don't even think it's the pollen. It is like the fragrance. It's too much. It's like when somebody in church wears perfume that's too much right next to you and you're choking a little bit. It's beautiful, but
sad but true.
She needs some boundaries.
We can only have certain flowers in the house because somebody can't.
I can't handle it.
Take it. Yeah. Well, this is a few days later, 3 white peonies blooming together. So cool. And this yellow one was one we picked up a couple years ago, and it didn't do much last year, but it's finally looking really pretty. There's a couple other buds on that one. And the pink one that we've had forever, I almost think this one was with the house when we got it.
Yeah, this one came with the house, and for a long time we couldn't find a good spot for it. And then finally we found the spot it liked.
Yeah.
And we haven't moved it since.
That's the first one of those.
Yeah.
So. And then irises. It's also iris season. I don't know what this one is. This was at a customer's house, but it's kind of a traditional burgundy. And then this orange one was at the same property. These are amazing.
So beautiful.
It's fun. And then this was one that a customer gave us a couple of years ago. They're little white Dutch irises. And so those are looking good. And here's a purple Louisiana iris.
Hang on, that peony's making me cough a little. It's just even looking at it.
Okay.
It's my throat.
Wow. So that purple iris, I think, is called Rocky Hunt. And the lavender and yellow one, which is real pretty and blooming all the way down the stem, the stalk, is called Changing Shadows. And we have some bearded irises blooming. This one is called Watercolor Print.
I think we had to special order this one, didn't we?
I think
we
so.
We had to ask them to get it in for us.
This one was one of the ones that we got from Iris City Gardens. And then this one I think is technically different. It looks a lot like watercolor print, and I can't find the name on that one. This one is called Dawn Eternal. Really like that one. It's another one that we got from there. I like it so much. I'll show you a close-up. And this is Florentine Silk, which is also a hybrid that we got from Iris City Gardens. And here's a close-up of that one as well. So much fun. So much beautiful stuff.
Yeah, well, so for so many days now, we've heard people working in the house that they're building behind us, but we don't know what they're doing because we have boundaries and we're not peeking in the windows.
They've all been inside things, whatever.
And then today I walked out and they were doing the brick on the outside. It's really exciting. So we got a little picture of that.
Super fresh photo from today.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm so impressed. I mean, they're just doing such a great job.
That's one. I mean, I've learned how to do a lot of things, but not that.
Yeah.
It is impressive.
Very cool.
Well, a couple episodes ago, we've talked, well, maybe more than once, about our Japanese maple and where it came from, and that there's a cool story associated with that. But the redbud kind of has a story too. And Hillary, I think, really wanted to talk about that and
Yes.
kind of tell that story. So.
All right. Let me get back to the right spot for that. We had a lot of pictures today. That was fun.
Yeah.
So we, when we were trying to decide, when we were building our pond,
Yep.
we knew we wanted a special tree to be kind of the centerpiece, the focus of that area.
Well, we wanted 2 waterfalls.
Yes.
And a pond. And
Yes.
that's what I do. I love it. I love the waterfalls as much as any other part of it. So
between those 2 waterfalls, we thought, okay, we're going to have a beautiful tree there.
a focal point.
Yep, focal point. And we didn't agree on what we wanted. Surprise, surprise.
Imagine that.
Actually, that happens a lot. So we didn't agree. I wanted one kind of tree. You wanted a different kind of tree.
Yep.
And the more I thought about it, I think I realized it meant a little more to you. And so in a marriage, as you do, you compromise. And before we ever went to the nursery, I told you, I said, it's okay with me if we get the tree you want. It's all right. We'll get the Japanese maple.
Yeah.
I really wanted a redbud. And you wanted the Japanese maple. And I thought, no, that'll be nice too. We can do that. So when we were shopping at the nursery, we realized that the tree you wanted was totally out of our budget at the time.
Yeah.
We were kind of processing like in real time. But instead of picking something else that you wanted, you said we could go ahead and get the tree that I wanted. And I just...
Why not?
Why not? That was so sweet. Yeah. So do you want to talk about how you got the Japanese maple?
Yeah. So we bought the redbud, we brought it home, we planted it. And I kind of have this thing when I'm doing stuff in my own yard. I really don't like to put in super young plants that are going to get big. I will wait and save up and pay for a bigger one, even if it's, still a third or a quarter of what it's going to get. But I don't want to buy a Japanese maple from Home Depot for $59 because that looks like a branch fell out of a tree and landed right side up. I mean, so I wanted a nice Japanese maple, and in Michigan, we could get nice ones for $300-400 of what I was thinking of. So the only nursery around here that carries anything close to that, they're like $1,200-1,500. That's why we didn't get a Japanese maple. But the redbud was beautiful, and so we brought it home and actually had to fight to get it up on top of what we had built up for the waterfalls. It took 3 of us. Our son John helped us.
Definitely got a bigger, more established tree to begin with.
Yeah, at a reasonable price, and it's just done really well over the years. So a couple of years later, we were at a customer's house, and this customer had real tiny patio. She wanted to extend the patio and put seating walls and planters and all kinds of stuff. It was a big project. But there was a Japanese maple right where we were going to do our work. And I said, are we going to build a little, circle around this Japanese maple and leave it? And she said, no. And it looked terrible. She had these dogs that she really loved, and they were nice dogs, except they were like 4 or 5 years old, and they acted like the wildest puppies you have ever seen. For whatever reason, they could not figure out how to train these dogs not to be wild animals. And literally every time she let them out, they would run over to that tree and bite it and strip it. I've never heard of anything like it.
Yeah. They were trying to eat the maple.
And she said, I don't care what you do with it. If you think it's savable, you can sell it to somebody else. You can take it home. I don't care what you do, but we're not trying to save that. Okay. So it was in such bad shape. I did try to dig it out carefully. I brought it home. I wanted to save it. We were so busy. It took me 2 or 3 days before I could even get it in the ground. It was just laying in the yard. I planted it, oriented it what I thought would hopefully be the best way to orient it. And so over these years, we made sure it got watered. I pruned it. We fertilized it a couple times. And that first picture I showed of the red bud and the Japanese maple by the pond is a horrible picture and it doesn't really do any of it justice. But here's a little bit better picture that shows from a different angle how pretty this Japanese maple is. And it was just a cool gift that, you know, through my connections as a landscaper and someone doing hardscapes that I was able to get. But yeah, that's how all of that came together.
I mean, it is gorgeous. It is such a beautiful, beautiful tree. We could not afford to buy that tree. As it is right now. Like it's just so
as it is
gorgeous.
right now, we were looking at them the other day at the same place, and I mean it was probably $1,700 for that tree the way it looks right now.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
So every year when the leaves come out on the red bud, they start out as tiny little hearts. And I didn't know that that's how it was going to work. But every time the red bud starts to leaf out, and these tiny little hearts come out on the tree, it just reminds me of your love for me and that you bought me the tree that I really, really wanted. And then also it reminds me of the Lord's love for you and how even though you sacrificed and let me get the tree that I wanted, he also kind of circled back around and said, I'm also going to give you what you wanted. And it just always makes me happy. And I don't know if anybody is familiar with this story. You could look this up, but it's a story called The Gift of the Magi. And I don't know if you had ever heard that before, but...
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with the story.
Yeah. So it's from 1905. It's a short story by by O. Henry. It sounds like a candy bar. By O. Henry. And... so it's just two young people. They're married, Jim and Della. And their first Christmas, they want to buy gifts for each other, but they don't have any money. And so she has beautiful, beautiful long hair. And so she cuts it and sells it to a wig company. And with that money, she buys Jim. It's a chain for his watch. And so she's so excited to give him this gift.
Yeah.
And then in turn, he wants to buy her a gift, but he doesn't have any extra money. So he sells his prized watch in order to buy her beautiful combs for her hair.
Right.
And so the irony is that neither of the gifts are usable anymore. He doesn't have the watch to put with the chain, and she doesn't have the hair to put with the combs. But it's not about the gifts. It was about the fact that they were both willing to sacrifice what they had to show their love for each other. And so when I think about our trees, it just reminds me of that. And again, it's not so much about the gifts, but just about the love and the unselfishness towards each other.
Yeah. I was going to be a smart aleck and say it's a story about communication and that surprise gifts aren't always the best gifts.
Well, we have learned that is true. Yeah. Hey, I'm thinking about cutting all my hair. What do you think?
Yeah. But it is a really sweet story. And, we wanted to transition then from that back to the principle of, how do you get what you want in a relationship? And there are a lot of ways that people try to do that. Some people are super passive aggressive. Some people are really whiny and childish. They try to play the victim. I never get what I want. You have to, it's my turn or whatever.
Some people try to barter with candy.
Yeah.
Very transactional.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We put that in, even though it's not always bad. I'm kidding.
No.
But yeah, the whole transactional thing of, I'm giving you what you want. You have to give me what I want. Mm-hmm. Some people are just straight up threatening. We're talking about, these are all kind of not great ways, obviously. Some are obviously worse than others. But even just the overall concept of trying to get what you want in a relationship by being manipulative.
Right.
And trying to, And I made a joke about communication, but part of healthy relationships is communication, talking things out. But of course, we have a biblical worldview. So let's see what the Bible says really quick. In Mark 10:44-45, Jesus said, "Whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man," and that's how Jesus referred to himself, "did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many."
Yeah, in John 13, let me back up. In John chapter 13, verses 1 through 17,
There it is.
we find the story of Jesus washing his disciples' feet, which is the ultimate example of servant leadership.
Right.
And he said, "Now that I have done this for you, do it for each other." And so we've learned that same principle works not only in our marriage, but in other relationships as well.
Yeah.
So
let's dig into that a little bit. First thing I would want to look at is what not to do. So here are some things that are often promoted as things that you should do in a relationship. Look out for number one. Now, we're going to say a lot of things and we believe them, and we're mostly talking about marriage, but this also works in friendships, relationships with family. It can work with work relationships. And so there are times when you have to look out for yourself and not let other people take advantage of you. So
Sure.
We're not saying just be a servant, be a martyr, be a victim, and never do anything for yourself. We're not saying that. But you can take look out for number one to an extreme where you're only concerned about yourself, and that's not good or healthy. You demand what you want in a relationship, and your main focus is on making sure that whether, again, work or friend or spouse, that whoever you're in a relationship with, they are giving you what you need and or want. Dang it.
And this is actually a lot of people's, I'm going to include myself. This is like the default mode. And really, if you think about, if you believe that you're born with a sin nature, we always used to kind of joke, you never had to teach a baby to say no. Like no or mine. Like they're
You don't have to
born,
teach them to be selfish.
Right. You don't. They are born knowing how to be selfish.
Right.
You teach them how to be kind. You teach them how to share. You teach them how to think about other people. So this really is kind of the default setting,
Right.
unless you're intentionally trying to not be that way, I think.
Yeah. And I think this self-centered approach usually ends in disappointment. When people act this way, they usually don't get what they're after anyway.
Yeah.
So what are some things to do? Well, seek out info on the other person's needs. Now, this is easier to do if you're married because you're already in a more intimate relationship where you can talk about these things. But also, like we started out with the goofy skit about the chocolate, but some people do really like chocolate. And if you just, gave your mom some chocolate every now and then and said, "Hey, I was just thinking about you. I saw this and I know you like it," and just do little nice things every now and then. Maybe if you and your mom aren't getting along so good, and she might appreciate that.
Yeah. And not with the idea like, oh, I'm going to get something, but just to be in that habit of, how could I love this person? What's something I could do that would communicate, hey, I'm thinking about you.
Right.
I love you.
Yep.
I think it's really important.
Yeah. Intentionally strategize how you can meet those needs and wants, or at least a few of them. Again, in a marriage relationship, you're going to want to meet as many needs as you can. And if in a coworker relationship, you might just say like, well, what's one thing I could do that would maybe help there be a little less animosity here with someone that I don't necessarily get along with.
Yeah.
So there's different there. You have to use some wisdom and
A little
discernment.
bit of boundaries.
Yeah. But usually there's a little bit of sacrifice that goes into that, I wouldn't buy a $50 gift, but if you bought a $5 box of Butterfingers or something that's not really out of line, and you're not going to do it every day either. But But there might be some sacrifice, and there are a lot of things you can do for free that's just more a sacrifice of, I don't want to be nice to this person, or I'm just hoping that we can get through the day without me having to think about what to do to make this relationship better. Well, if it's a relationship worth having, or if you don't have a choice, like with a coworker, then it's probably worth thinking about how to make it better.
And actually, I would even say the first step would be to pray about that person.
Yeah.
And to pray for that person, and to really just to say, Lord, how could I love this person? What could I do that would actually show love to them?
Right.
That would make them feel that they're important to me.
Yeah.
Because he knows them. He knows their hearts.
Well, he knows everything. So I do think that God will give you some ideas. The nice thing about in a marriage, you can say, hey, listen to this podcast. If we both do this, this could work really well. It works best when both people do it. But there's no way to guarantee the other person's participation. And if it's a different type of relationship, it might even be awkward to bring it up. And again, it's not transactional. Mm-hmm. But if you commit to trying to make the relationship better, then I think God will bless that.
Yeah, I actually was just remembering years ago in one of my preschool classrooms, for whatever reason, there was one parent that didn't seem to like me or my assistant. And we would talk about it sometimes, like, are we doing something? Did we do something? Have we offended? And we really couldn't think of what we had done.
Right.
And so we just decided we're just going to show them love every time, no matter what. We're just going to keep thinking of ways to show love.
Yeah.
And eventually it worked. And then just like it flipped on a switch. And then from that day forward, she seemed to love us. And we even looked at each other after the class, like, what did we do? We don't know what we did. We don't know what we did to cause the offense. We don't know what we did to now be like back in a good relationship. But all we did was intentionally try to show love every time we were in a, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like
in a conversation or an interaction.
Interaction. That was the word. Thank you. You would.
Well, a little bit of godly love goes a long way.
Yeah. And so sometimes you might not know, but just keep trying to show that love.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll work.
Right. Well, so let's look at a different angle on this. When two people are in a relationship and they both are trying to get what they want selfishly, usually they don't get what they want, or they don't get as much as they could. At best, they might get a little bit, and then anything that they do get what they want, they've achieved that through selfishness and manipulation. And selfishness and manipulation are not good building blocks for a healthy, lasting relationship. So when two people are together in a relationship, especially a marriage, in the ways that we've suggested it, and I'll break this up into different types of relationships, but in a marriage, when both partners are doing this, when they're trying to seek out the other person's needs and wants and trying to meet them as much as possible, you're much more likely to get what you want. And instead of getting it through selfishness and manipulation, you get it through sacrificial love. And sacrificial love is a good foundation for a healthy, lasting relationship. So you get more of what you want, and you're doing it in a healthy way. But the way you get there is to be unselfish.
Yeah.
I want to do everything I can do to make you happy.
Thank you.
And you want to do everything you can do to make me happy.
Yeah.
And life is not perfect. It doesn't work every day, every time. We all have bad days. We all, whatever, fly off the handle or things happen. But overall, in the big picture, we each are getting our needs met.
And it's just has such a different spirit to it when you're thinking about yourself and your needs and how can I take, it's such a negative way to live.
Yeah.
But when there's so much more joy when you're focused on the other person and just to say, how could I love you well today? Mm-hmm. How can I, whether you're having a great day, a bad day, if I'm focused on you and you're focused on me, there's so much more joy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can you think of a better word for that?
Joy. I mean, joy is a great word, and it's how you get there.
Happiness, satisfaction, joyfulness.
Well, I think a lot of times you start out going, oh my gosh, I'm not used to doing this. I'm being sacrificial. I'm really putting myself out there. I hope this pays off. But what happens over time is you realize that making her happy makes me happy, and vice versa. And so, it's like, hey, the one and only Son of the true and living God, who was the agent through which everything was created, was actually onto something. Go figure. When he said, serve each other, he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're in a different type of relationship besides marriage, maybe just try one or two things and see what happens. The other person may not notice right away. Again, it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. It can just be actions, kindnesses, things that you think will make the relationship better. And then depending on the relationship, keep serving them and see what happens. See what God will do. And just remember that it's not transactional. You are trying to improve the relationship, but you just have to keep telling yourself, I'm not doing A to get B, A to get B, A to get B. I'm doing this because I think it's what God would want me to do. And I think in the long term, it'll make this relationship better. And I'm just going to give it a really good try.
I was even just thinking when you said that, hopefully everybody has somebody in their life that's healthy, that you have a good, healthy relationship with, because it is harder if you're giving, serving, and never receiving. That can wear you out pretty quick.
Oh, for sure.
But in those cases, I would just really encourage people to watch and see how the Lord steps in to fill that gap.
Yeah.
If you're giving, and even sometimes like parent to child, if you're pouring as a parent and giving and giving and giving, and maybe, never really receiving any healthy reciprocal love.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just servanthood.
Yeah.
Watch and see how the Lord will fill you up himself. Mm-hmm. Because you can't serve from emptiness. You need to be full. But if you don't have healthy people that you're in good relationships with, then I would just really encourage you to go to the Lord to get full so that you can still give. Because sometimes, unfortunately, people don't have somebody healthy in their life that's also trying to look out for their needs, also trying to do that. I don't know, that reciprocal love, that unselfish love. That's hard.
Yeah. Well, I do think the principles work in different types of relationships. I will admit that we learned this in our marriage, and I think it works the best in marriage because it works best when both people do it. But just the biggest takeaway from this, I think, is if you work hard to serve the other person and to meet their needs through sacrificial love, you have a much better chance of getting your needs met than if you are trying so hard to get your needs met through selfish manipulation. That's the biggest key in this and the biggest takeaway. And so I hope that stands out to everybody. And we had one more verse we wanted to finish up with.
Yeah, this is in Philippians 2:3, and it says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or vain conceit," or just conceit, "but in humility count others more significant than yourselves." Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. And
Yeah.
I've always loved that one. And I also would point out that it says that you are looking to your own interests. You know, you should take care of yourself. It says not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. And so I think what that means is that if you give your wife a red bud, you will get a Japanese maple.
It might mean that, or it might mean something similar.
Maybe.
Well, I think you're pretty excited about the wisteria blooming.
Yes.
We may have pictures of that for next week's show and tell.
Another item that someone was going to throw in the trash was our beautiful arbor. And literally they said, "Can you get this out of my yard?" And we said, "Oh, yes, we can."
I'd be happy to do that.
And then, we bought our wisteria, and I've always loved those. They're just so gorgeous. So next week, hopefully we'll get some beautiful pictures of that.
Right.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Well, thank you for joining us. We know that your time is valuable. We really appreciate you sharing it with us. And we look forward to seeing you next week. We did drop a couple of movie reviews recently. So if you haven't checked out the movie review playlists on our YouTube page, please check it out. The David and Hillary Show. We have a playlist of previews that you can watch. They're pretty short, no spoilers, but they give you enough of an idea without spoilers, that you can see if this is a movie that you want to see or not. And if you really like discussions on movies, the post view of the same movie after you've watched it, or if you don't care about spoilers, we do a deep dive and we talk about a lot of issues in the movies. And I think if you like movies, you would enjoy that. So again, thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the David and Hillary Show.
See ya.